2005 after riding the horse from L.A. to New York City. And first Representative Leap in the halls of Congress, essentially pushing for a 10th Amendment solution to federal prohibition, make it a states' rights issue, which it used to be 100 years ago. And currently, I work for citizensopposingprohibition.org, a very small boutique, if you will, organization that operates only at the federal level. And that's what I do now as a full-time job, is to work with those others in D.C. who we are now unified quite a bit at the full-time activism level of simply pushing a 10th Amendment position on Congress to turn to the states what they lost in 1937 from marijuana.
So you're still a cop then? Citizens Opposing Prohibition, that's COP.
With COP, yeah, it's kind of little. It was, I thought, a fairly little clever play on words, but I still represent the law enforcement community, just through a different organization. I certainly, in cops, there are police officers, judges, prosecutors, and others who feel the same way, like LEAP, and I represent them in the halls of Congress to voice to the police and other professionals who say not only the war on drugs, destructive, dysfunctional, and immoral policies of slavery and Jim Crow, it is time for us to start thinking of our children who are hurt and killed by our massive spending of time, police time, chasing the drugs and drug dealers. And the message of protecting our children, of course, turns the issue on its head. But it is, when I tell a congressman there's 900,000 drug dealers in this country who are teenagers, and every day 18 are shot, people are listening.
Well, it's great that you think that way, but unfortunately there are too many judges and law enforcement officers who still have the Henry Anslinger mindset, the reefer madness, and think that it's a terrible drug, it's a gateway drug, and that people need to go to prison for it.
Hold on. Well, if you want to respond to that, go ahead. I wanted to... Go ahead if you want to respond to that, but I had some other things I want to...
My questions are shorter than Michael's.
Oh, it's just, yeah, I mean, the majority of the profession is still in the drug warrior camp. However, there's a good poll came out last year, 2017, that showed about 40% of line officers, street cops like I used to be, are now regulate tax marijuana. So the numbers are going up just there in all of society, where there's more and more support for the...
What's the 10th Amendment?
I want to talk about those other...
I'm sorry. Hi, Howard. It's Charmy. Hi, Howard.
We lost him, I think.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Can we get him? Can we fix it? This is going to be like
we're having pretty serious.
Right here, come back.
Just want to know what
pretty
the 10th
serious
Amendment
network
is.
problems.
Just clarify, please.
No, don't talk about...
Oh.
Just a second. It's going to be back in a second.
What was that?
I was answering Charmy's question.
All right, fine.
But I want Howard Woldridge or Mr. Camoran to answer.
No, he likes to do that. He likes to stick him.
I like Alan answering questions.
Just go talk to them before I get there.
All powers.
Talk to them before I get there.
Quote it for me.
We're guys, come back. Give me some optimism.
That's
we're coming back, but we'll see for how long.
I just doubt that our listeners really fully understand the 10th Amendment.
I mean, I think that the only person who's
You gotta
really
clarify,
suited to
though.
explain it
At all times.
is the Federalist.
Okay.
All right.
This is my jam.
I think we lost him.
All right, that's good.
Let's call him back.
Can we just have the Federalists explain what his law means?
No, stop. We're going to talk about this.
We're
I
going to
want
call
to
him
hear.
back.
Can we get him on the
But your
live?
anti-commandeering laws...
They're like
Hello, now.
Okay, good. Sorry about that, and I apologize. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. All right, listen. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, but you raised one, now I have to go off. Hey, we're back on. Keep it down. So, the 10th Amendment, the commandeering. Our courts have had thousands of trees killed, writing opinions, where the main people taking time off the street, testifying in that, making all those transcripts for appeal, police officers, all about the Fourth Amendment. Litigated more than probably any other amendment, never intended by our founding fathers. Had the 10th Amendment been litigated a third of the amount, the Fourth Amendment would have never been affected, right? And I want to throw in there also The Third Amendment. How about the Third Amendment? Untouched. Come on. Let me go here a little bit. No, the
Third?
well, it's
The quartering of soldiers in your house? What?
There are SWAT teams in military uniforms that have you taking over your house and taking your property for hours at a time, where they got their vehicle.
Taking your property for hours at a time, that's what taxes are.
Weber, okay, that's an exaggeration, but I still think there's something there. Anyways,
assistance class.
all right. Stick with the 10th Amendment then, if we agree on that.
Oh, let's go to that.
Please.
So people want to know explain why a police officer, retired police officer who was in drug policy reform and now speaking out, would be discussing the 10th Amendment with a legislature. What's the significance and what impact would it have at the federal level?
Well, when I got to Washington in 2005 and started talking to the congressmen and their staff, I realized very quickly that Republicans are never going to be able to vote to decriminalize or lower the penalties for any drugs, even marijuana. However, what many more Republicans believe in is the 10th Amendment, states' rights. It should be a state. Even Jeff Sessions has argued many, many times about states should have more power, more rights, more responsibilities. And so it's much easier, I should say less difficult, to convince a Republican to go 10th Amendment than to decrim or lower penalties, etc., for marijuana. And that's why we started that policy in that strategy, if you will, in 2009 with a bill with Ron Paul and Barney Frank to apply the 10th Amendment to marijuana. And we had many more Republicans come on board. And today, cheerful news, we now have a slight majority in the House that would end the 1937 law if leadership would allow a vote, which they are not going to do.
Interesting.
So we actually have the numbers we need now. I've only been a 10-year running failure, but we now have technically the votes to win in the House and almost enough, 60 votes in the Senate.
But when you say win it, this is on an issue to decriminalize or just leave it to the states. That's the issue, right?
No. This is to end the 1937 federal prohibition of marijuana, which has been going on now for 81 years.
Who supported
it all back to the states?
Is this the Virginia representative that introduced this bill? Is that what we were talking about?
Is that effective, though?
No, this is Congressman Rohrabacher of California's H.R. 975. That's the one that would apply the 10th Amendment. It's only 32 words.
All right. This is a different one introduced by Rohrabacher. We thought there was a... Anyways, you're talking 10th Amendment, straight up states' rights. I totally agree on that. I was alluding to the commandeering and the way law enforcement, the federal government commandeers on some of these, drug task forces, which have been unified for the purposes of raising money and sharing and profits and whatnot, and arguably, that's always been a different angle, I guess. But no, I agree. The issue of the states, and you're right. It's traditionally a Republican issue, and we always used to joke when Sessions came in and it was going crazy about marijuana this, and we feared that these kind of announcements were going to take place. We were joking, are you going to support California when they secede from the Union? You know what I mean? Like that kind of reversal kind of thing could have, because they're like they've been, or Colorado that's been in. And it was interesting because the Colorado governor, Republican, voted against it originally, but he's standing by the will of the people and recognizes, and there's some, I found it interesting. What were your thoughts on that? That the last time the Attorney General makes an announcement of that magnitude and it has no direct impact and no one really takes him seriously. What do you think about that?
Well, Jeff Sessions, we are all familiar with him, and he's been barking like a mad dog. The good news is that he has only been barking and barking. The DEA, my best information, has not been turned loose to go after state legal operations. And I've talked to 6 people around the country who have met with Jeff Sessions in person, and again, he barks in person, but all 6 of them said definitively they have very, very big doubts that Jeff Sessions will ever tell the DEA to go after state legal operations, whether recreational or medical. For whatever reasons above my pay grade, Jeff Sessions for a whole year now has been all bark and no bite. And that's good, obviously.
It's true.
But we won't
I mean,
know until it happens.
His message is a terrible message. I mean, it's antiquated. It goes back to 1980, which it's difficult for people to understand. And do you think that there's ultimately going to be an influence if you get a couple other states that either make it medical, or I guess it would be we have almost there's more than half of the states now, isn't that right? I mean, 30 have some kind of medical recognition of it. I mean, we should be calling for it to be rescheduled in some way. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think from law enforcement, because we've got this discussion about regulated tax, which is the model that is being adopted as a whatever, but the scheduling to a 2 may not end especially with marijuana, may not end all the crap that goes along with people getting arrested for it. It just means that now certain licensed people are going to grow. It doesn't mean that others aren't going to, and it's, you know what I mean. So to really make it end, what has to happen?
Yeah, the good news is that there's a bill out there, HR 2020, easy to remember. This is from the Virginia Republican, and the bill is supported, endorsed at the national level by the American Legion. This would move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which would bust open the entire marijuana prohibition at the federal level. And this bill, if it were allowed for a vote, and this is what I'm working on, and my colleagues, all 4 of them, are working on today, is getting the leadership, Ryan and Goodlatte, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, to allow a vote. We now have, ladies and gentlemen, 300 people in the House who would vote for this bill. You only need 218. It has overwhelming support to have medical marijuana be a states' rights issue. 300 votes. The trouble is we cannot get leadership to allow the vote. My opinion is that is a direct result of police pressure, law enforcement pressure, and of course the pressure from the pharmaceuticals who do not want to compete with God's green plant as a medicine.
Well, doesn't Schedule 3 just queue it up for those people that are currently commanding the market and making Schedule 3 drugs now? I mean, what's the likelihood of your
what it would do is what it would do if they made my terms right here, if they basically made all marijuana Schedule 3, then your doctor could prescribe it off-label for anything. From everything from anxiety to pain to all the other serious conditions that cannabis helps, a doctor could prescribe it. Now, there would have to be a whole situation like in Uruguay where the pharmacies are selling marijuana, but it would bust open the whole concept that, yes, God's green plant is medicinal, it's helpful, it's now a legal regulated product, and this would open the floodgates, in my opinion, to ending all prohibition much, much faster. And with the American Legion on board, and when they provide the pressure in Congress, they can overcome the money of the pharmaceuticals and the political pressure of the police unions and the police industry.
What about the argument that the federal government's never going to allow for or schedule the selling of plant material? Like all the things that they're going to release and, honor or, to regulate and authorize, if it gets there at a different schedule, is going to be, some extraction of some kind that they can kind of, quantify and qualify and, down to the molecular, percentage of air or whatever that may be. That would, what I'm saying? Those are the things that concern me, and I don't know if they're going to be producing the, ounce of marijuana or half ounce of marijuana that a patient may need and just want to smoke or something like that. What do you think about that?
Well, obviously, we need at the federal level to treat marijuana like we do alcohol and tobacco, which means they're not scheduled at all. Right? That's the ultimate goal. But until we get there, this is the 2020 is a very good interim step. And as everybody out there probably knows, and I say it's impossible. One of the reasons I got into this because when the guy first talked to me about joining the anti-drug war movement, he said, "Did you ever think?" And this will be for your older listeners. Did you ever think the